What's good? You're watching Gian Talks Sports, Combat Fighting Edition. So this weekend is the fight that we all should have been waiting for, but we're not because we got too obsessed with the Conor McGregor-Mayweather fight. Potentially the biggest boxing match with the most ramifications. September 16th in Las Vegas. Triple G versus Canelo for the middleweight championship. It's going to unite some belts and pretty much going to decide who the linear middleweight champion is. Like I said, it should be the biggest fight, but it's not. It's kind of lost its luster because we got pulled into the hype job that was May Mac.
Hey man, I like that fight.
I mean, it was fun. You know, I mean, I had to like it because I paid $100 for it, so watched it by myself. But this
is a $100 fight too, isn't it?
No, this one I think was $60.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back to regular pay-per-view prices. But I think it's going to be a good fight. Both these guys like to come forward. Both these guys like to throw bombs, although, as I've mentioned on other podcasts,
you don't like Canelo.
Canelo has pillow hands. So when I say that, I'm not saying that his punch is going to hurt me, but he's more of an accumulation puncher. He's not going to knock you out with one shot unless you just come right in with your chin straight out to get hit, which Triple G is not going to do. He's one of the smarter fighters out there. A lot is at stake. I think Canelo has more to lose than Triple G because for whatever reason, Triple G's star just hasn't gone the way that most boxing fans and experts believe it should. But I don't know. How do you feel about the fight? Are you excited about this fight? Are you as excited about this fight as the May Mac fight?
No. I was way more excited to see the Conor McGregor-Mayweather fight just because to me it was so unbelievable. Like I didn't even think I said
because of the spectacle.
Yeah, I said 3 times before the fight, I'm like, oh my God, this fight's happening.
Right.
This is real. This is really happening. But from a boxing standpoint, I mean, everyone who watches boxing and someone like me who doesn't even watch it religiously but knows enough, we've been waiting for this fight for years. This was the fight that was supposed to happen like during the Mayweather time when Canelo was fighting Mayweather, right? Like that's when they started talking about it, or maybe a little bit right after that.
It's been about 2-3 years in the making for sure.
So I mean, it's we've been wanting, and now it's coming, and now it's here. Assuming nothing happens, nothing crazy like a steroid poppage or something stupid. But I'm excited to watch it for sure. Like it's definitely the number one boxing match of the year, hands down.
Right.
But my thing is, after we get it, what's going to happen for boxing? Like, what's next? Let's assume even if Triple G wins, you can take it one way, and Canelo wins, you can take it another way. But like, what happens with boxing?
I mean, a lot of people, it's going to go one of either two ways. The May Mac fight actually like made boxing a little more popular, so a lot of people are going to be excited,
I think so.
And they might buy this fight where normally they wouldn't. Or people are going to have fatigue and not want to spend money again on these two.
Because they just spent $160.
And like, Triple G's not a household name and Canelo's just kind of, I mean, it just says something like non-English speaking fighters are tough to sell.
And the only reason why Canelo's as big as he is because he's Mexican.
Exactly.
That's it. If Triple G were Mexican, this would be a huge fight.
Oh, Triple G might be the biggest Mexican fighter ever.
If Canelo and Triple G were Mexican, you'd have De La Hoya's 3 million projection because De La Hoya predicted 3 million pay-per-view buys.
I'm like really interested in the international sales on this, like how many people from Kazakhstan are going to buy it, because that's Triple G's. He's from Kazakh, so not sure how big boxing is over there. But when you have a star like this, like he's the biggest fighter to ever come out of that country.
Does that translate to like Russian sales too? Like
not necessarily because they used to belong to Russia and the Soviet Union, but they're not Russian.
Right, I know that. That's what I'm saying. Does it translate over
I don't think
a
so
bit?
Because I don't think Russians consider them Russian.
Got it. Because I know, like, I'm sure Cubans aren't going to go out and buy Canelo fight or like
no,
just because he's Hispanic.
No,
that's
the
why
one thing about boxing is it's very divided ethnically, and I think the same thing will happen on Saturday. Although there's boxing people that just love boxing. They're going to get
fans of boxing who are going to
like
just buy
real
this.
Fans, not casuals.
Real fans of boxing are going to buy this fight.
Casuals, yeah, they're going to get this fight, and I think they're going to be entertained. They're going to get their money's worth for sure. I don't see it being. There's no
prediction.
Way.
What's your prediction?
As of right now, I think Triple G is going to get a knockout in the 7th round. That's my call. 7th round knockout, Triple G.
My call is it's going to go to the distance. And there's going to be moments of explosiveness between both guys where both people land punches, and you're like, ooh, just the back and forth. But I think it's going to be ultimately a boring fight.
Oh, Daniel's a jerk.
I think there will be bursts of energy, like I said. But other than that, it's going to be a boring fight. I honestly don't think they're going to throw at each other a lot.
Triple G has yet to have a boring fight. Why would this one be the first one?
I just don't see it.
Canelo doesn't have the foot speed or the lateral movement to get out of his way either. So I feel like he's going to be coming forward the entire fight.
But then what? So okay, but all right. Let me ask you this then: They both go forward, and Canelo lands with some pillow punches, but they actually, make Triple G rethink things a little bit, and then they kind of do like this dance shit.
Worst case scenario, there's a possibility where Triple G decides that he doesn't want to get hit and boxes from the outside, because on a skill level he can do that. There is that possibility. I don't see it happening.
My only problem is, and this is just me being 100% honest, genuine, I really mean this, every boxing fight that I watch that's really hyped up ends up being a disappointment. Every single one of them. And now the only reason why the Mayweather-McGregor fight I don't consider a disappointment is because I had so much hype, and McGregor was actually like being active, and he was lasted as long as he did, so it was just different.
Well, you mentioned a keyword, and the keyword is Mayweather. All these fights that you're talking about that were hyped up and that were disappointments usually involve Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Let's not get it twisted. I mean, I know you're also talking about the Canelo versus Chavez fight that happened earlier.
That was boring, but I also didn't like when Canelo fought your Puerto Rican guy,
Cotto. Yeah, that was a bad fight too.
And then when I watched the replay of the Ward fight. What's Ward
Kovalev?
Yeah, I didn't really find it to be that interesting. The first one I enjoyed, but I didn't watch it live. The second one didn't really do much for me. I did like that.
That fight wasn't hyped as much, though.
But I mean, it was a big fight.
Yeah, well, but Andre Ward also has a reputation for being a boring fighter. So
I'm just saying, like you can hype up any fight with highlights.
I understand your skepticism. We'll leave it at that. I think I understand where you're coming from on that. But I don't think it's. I think this fight's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be the best fight of the year. That's my prediction.
I think it's going to go all 12.
Of the fights that I saw, I've seen this year. I think this.
I also think Triple G's going to win. Excuse me. I think Canelo's going to win just by decision.
We'll see what happens. Tune in next week to see who won or not. Anyways, UFC also had a pay-per-view this weekend, and I didn't.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
They lost 2 fights.
They lost
like 3 fights, actually.
I feel like it started off. Who's the other fight they lost?
So they lost the Mighty Mouse fight.
Mighty Mouse fight, which no one was going to tune into.
And then there was an Ngannou fight, and he was going to fight one of the.
Oh, and the other guy got hurt. No,
it got popped.
Junior Dos Santos got popped for a diuretic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
this card was doomed. Numbers wise, I don't think it's going to do
look
well
right now.
at all. They'll have the final numbers. They might have them by now, but they usually have them by the middle of the week. I just think a lot of people were, you spent $100 on the Conor fight. This is only 2 weeks removed from that. All the heavy hitters are gone. Not to mention Mighty Mouse is not that big a name. He's not a big a draw at all. For whatever. And other people have talked about why the lighter weight classes have trouble drawing. It's because they don't get any knockouts. They'll get finishes. They might get a TKO. They might get a submission, but like a brutal knockout.
They don't have that power.
They don't have that power. They're too small. They don't have enough weight behind their punches. So it takes a while. And, even though the skill level's up there, the speed is up there, at the end of the day, people just like seeing carnage. The casual fan likes just seeing blood and guts out there. And when you're not bringing it, it's not compelling. So I think that's a big reason why
there were good fights on the whole, not on the main event, but on the undercard.
My theory is when it comes to these cards with lackluster main events, they always have the best fights on them, and people just don't watch them because they don't have that main event, which usually is a snooze.
There was at least 3 or 4 good fights in total, within its whole everything where I'm like, oh, this is a good moment. This is a good back and forth, et cetera, et cetera. But as a whole, I didn't pay. I'm not gonna say how I watched the fight, but I saw the fight, and I didn't pay. So I'm glad I didn't pay because I was going to pay. When they first announced all this stuff, there was going to be the dual title fight because Amanda Nunes fought as well, and then you had the Mighty Mouse fight, and then you had the Ngannou fight, and then I'm like, oh, you know what, this is actually a pretty good card. But nope, nothing fucking came out of it. So,
anyways, the reason why we brought it up was because the first Indian fighter in UFC history fought on the card and won. He's an Olympic wrestler. He wrestled for the Indian national team. His name is Arjan Bhullar. He is from Canada. I was born in Canada, but like I said, he represented India in the Olympics. Won a gold medal in the Commonwealth Games. And he lost in the second round in the Pan American Games. I think he made it. No, he medaled. He got a bronze in the Pan American Games in 2007. He went to the 2012 Summer Olympics, but he didn't medal. He got defeated. But still, we have a lot of Indian subscribers. And actually, we talked about, what was the name of the Salman Khan movie?
Sultan.
Yeah, and Sultan, he's a wrestler and he's an MMA fighter in the movie. We asked how big UFC was and MMA in general.
And everyone said, nah, not really.
Said, not really. There's a few younger people that are into it, but for the most part, most people aren't. So I'm wondering if knowing that you have a fighter of Indian descent in the UFC is going to like make that market come alive. He did good. I think so. He's a wrestler, Olympic wrestler. He's strong. And he looked good in the cage on Saturday.
He looked really good. He looked. Let me put it this way: if I didn't know anything about him, because it was his first fight in the UFC, and can he fight? Because he's going in the heavyweight division. Can he fight? Who's the heavyweight champion right now? Well, John Jones, but he's not.
No, he's not. He's light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight. Excuse me.
You think it's Stipe?
Stipe. Can he fight Stipe? Definitely not. Does that mean he can't though in the future? That's not. He definitely can. He's a definite. He definitely entered the circuit of heavyweights as a contender. Is he going to be ranked out for this fight? No, but if he continues on this path, he actually will be, because he was showing off some pretty impressive stuff.
My only concern about him is he's only 6'1", and the heavyweight division is just a land of giants.
Yeah, so they're freaks.
Yeah, so he might need to consider pulling a Daniel Cormier and dropping down to light heavyweight,
and that might happen.
And a fight between two Olympians at light heavyweight, two guys that used to fight at heavyweight, that might be a compelling fight as well.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because Arjun gave some props to Daniel, because I don't know if they worked. It kind of felt like they had worked together in some capacity. Maybe they competed together, but even Daniel was giving him props.
Right. Well, yeah, when you're in that circle, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. So, because Daniel wasn't. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, it was a good competition. It wasn't It wasn't just like, oh, I'm just gonna hold you to the ground or whatever. He actually fought, and he understood that this is mixed martial arts, not just wrestling. Because I feel like people who just wrestle in the MMA, they're not gonna last in the UFC. But it's just definitely interesting. I'm definitely curious to know now that there is this star in the making. Because even Joe Rogan commented on, we'll go to India, basically, is what he said.
And there's articles where the guy's saying he wants to capitalize on the Indian market.
Because the UFC will host a fight in India.
Absolutely.
100%. If enough, resources. Because Arjun said at the very end of the fight, he says, I'm fighting for you guys, the billion people out there, like the billion of us. And because it's true. There's a lot of Indians in the world. So, and there's never been a UFC fighter that's Indian, which is really interesting.
That'd be an amazing market to tap into, And the UFC needs a shot in the arm, because with all the controversy that's going on right now
with John Jones,
this card fell apart, so they lost money on this card.
100%.
They lost money on this card. John Jones, the light heavyweight division. People don't like DC for whatever reason. I think it's ridiculous, but people don't like DC. John Jones is never going to fight again in the UFC. I'm going to call it now. Mark my words. Then you have every other division. Middleweight, you have Michael Bisping, who's not popular. I like Bisping, but he's just not popular with people. He's kind of a jerk. Welterweight division, Tyron Woodley's probably the worst champion in the UFC.
He needs to be stripped.
Stipe, I think Stipe needs a couple more fights to really build his name. They could get behind
Stipe. I like Stipe, but he just hasn't done much yet, in my opinion.
The heavyweight division is getting better, though. There was a few years where the heavyweight division was close to dead, and Brock Lesnar actually brought it back to life. But Stipe, he's good. I just think he needs a couple more high-profile fights. And then you have Conor. Conor right now owns the UFC. He's the biggest fighter in the UFC. He can do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? So without Conor on the pay-per-view cards, these sales are going to suffer, which kind of, did you hear the Fertitta brothers just sold the rest of their stake?
I did not even know that.
So they had 5% left. They sold the 5%. They're completely out of the UFC, have nothing to do with it now. And that kind of makes me think they see a downward trend. So they're cashing out while it's on top. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know if oversaturation is a problem or if it's just the product itself is not as good as it used to be. I think definitely there's some star building needs to happen in the UFC, because if not, it's going to go on some hard times.
It's just hard. Honestly, it's hard to build superstars out of combat sports, especially UFC.
But the problem is they have these people that look like they have the right image, and then something happens to him. Like, be it Sage Northcutt, they rushed him in there. He lost a couple times. Now his star's diminished.
John Jones, he could have been a fucking superstar, but you guys go,
and a steroid user, a cheater. Then you have Ronda Rousey, completely gone off the radar. Now nobody cares about the women's division anymore, and the women's division was really starting to get popular.
It really was, and you know what? I'm sorry, but Amanda Nunes, you fucking sucked on Saturday. Shevchenko, or however you pronounce her name. Excuse me.
I heard she got robbed.
I wouldn't say she got robbed. I think in terms of the decision, I think it was accurate, but it was not. It should have been a draw. Actually, no, I'm not going to say it's accurate. I don't think anyone won. I think there should be a rematch. I think Amanda Nunes definitely pussied out the first time. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, I'm not a fighter. I don't get it.
Daniel's not a fan of Amanda Nunes.
What did I say? Did I say her name wrong?
You said Nunes.
Nunes.
Well, Portuguese, they don't do the ñ.
What the fuck ever. All I know is she didn't go to fight on Saturday. That's all I know. Hey man, she can knock me out on a heartbeat by looking at me. She entered the room. If she entered the room right now and she heard me talking shit about her, I would drop on the floor and beg for forgiveness. Let's not get it twisted. But in terms of like the actual competition that happened, you're not a champion.
Right.
You're not a champion.
Well, there's one person who could save the UFC and become their next big star, and we need to thank Joe Rogan for that.
Floyd Mayweather.
No. I listened to the podcast that he did last week with Cody Garbrandt.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Cody Garbrandt, he fights at 135, so that's kind of a tough sell. But
he can go fight
the guy's
Mighty
got
Mouse.
The look, he's got the attitude, and I think Cody Garbrandt could be the next star in the UFC.
He can talk too.
Yeah, he could talk. The problem is a lot of these guys can't talk on the mic, and the other thing is every time they build someone up, the guy loses.
Yep, like the Kevin Lee fight that's coming up. I think I don't know if it's a title fight or whatever, but it's the one that started he's
fighting El Cucuy.
Yeah, and that fight all came about was because of the whole like mama thing. Like you were talking shit about my mom at the press conference, and then that ended up being a good fight, and that's how you get stars. Unfortunately, you got to talk shit. You got to be the heel.
Unfortunately, Tony Ferguson's also a tough fight, so we don't know if he's going to win that. That could squash his career too. But if he beats him,
if he beats Tony Ferguson,
that could line him up. I think he needs a couple more fights to get him that Conor fight, but
it's a contender.
Yeah,
I think this is the last thing I'll say about the UFC. The UFC needs to take a few pages from the WWE playbook. I genuinely believe that. Now, I don't mean we need to have fake storylines, all this other shit, but we need to understand that, you know what? We're going to fight in the ring, but all the theatrics we had before that's the best thing about the Conor Mayweather thing was all the fight presses that were leading up to it. Because... And the UFC does do that, but people are too afraid. They're more about the honorable system. We'll just fight in the ring. I won't say anything, all right? Because I can't speak English, so I can't do it.
There's too much martial arts honor in the UFC, and that's the one thing. Even though Conor is a karate guy, that's his background. He does not have that same code of ethics.
He'll respect you in the ring, though.
Yeah.
Because he gave props to Floyd after the fight. He gives props to everybody, but he'll definitely talk shit about you too.
He has no problem hyping a fight, and I think the UFC needs a lot more of that because it's just lacking the star power. It doesn't have Stipe needs to start talking trash because the heavyweight division is the best it's been, like I said earlier, and I think
with his retarded
they
face,
can do some big.
This deformed face.
Anyways, but that's gonna do it, guys. Thanks for checking us out. NFL season. I'll talk about that next week or something. Make sure you check out our other videos. We have plenty of great podcasts right over here. There's links over here somewhere. Hit that like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.